Spring comes early here in Texas, so come see everything that's growing on in my garden. So it's only March, but I'm already hard at work adding new things to my garden. And one of the new things I've added is this castle-shaped raised bed from Vegega. This is a great raised bed if you want to grow some fruit trees and grow something like maybe tomatoes or peppers. So I have some super hots in this bed. We got a Carolina Reaper, ghost pepper, and a Thai chili, as well as this is a sundowner apple. The great thing about this variety is that it requires a low amount of chill hours. So a chill hour is the amount of hours that your tree needs to stay in dormancy from, let's say, like 32 degrees to 45 degrees. If it doesn't hit the right amount of chill hours, it won't produce fruit. So considering I live in Houston, we get around 400-ish chill hours a year. This is a good variety for me. Another variety too I have on this side is a Granny Smith apple, which is another low chill hour requirement. But yeah, so I'll have a link in the description if you want to check out this raised bed. But I think it's really cool because it gives you a mix, a variety of being able to grow some fruit trees and some vegetables in the same bed. So yesterday I was hard at work at repotting some of my citrus trees. I bought these at Costco last month for a ridiculously low price. They were only $30. Normally at my local nursery I find trees half the size for like $65, which is a really good deal. So I repotted them all in 25-gallon containers. I use citrus soil mix, as well as I fertilize them with some citrus fertilizer. And in the winter when it drops below 32 degrees, I'll get a dolly and move them into the garage. And then also next to these trees, I have some potatoes growing in this bed. They're just starting to pop up. So I'm pretty excited about having my own potatoes too later in the season. So another thing I'm super excited for this year in my garden is this ghost chili. So I dug it up last winter and overwintered it. And since it's a mature plant, it should produce a ton of chili peppers. As you can see, there's all this new growth just starting to form. So it's just ready to explode with new peppers. But I know one of my friends wants to do a taste test and try one of these. We'll see if he can handle the heat. I also think it'll be cool to make a hot sauce with these peppers too. So I showed you those first two apple trees growing in that raised bed, but I have two more apple trees growing in large containers. So this is a multi-grafted apple tree. There's Anna, Dorset, Fuji, and Gordon all growing on this one tree. They're also all low chill hour requirements. So basically what that means is that there's a good chance that I'm going to get apples every single year from this tree. And speaking of apples, I already have a ton of little apples developing on this tree, so I'll be picking apples very soon. But let me know in the comments, if this was your tree, what would you use these apples for? Would you bake with them, or would you eat them as is, or in some other way? But then right next to this tree, I have another apple tree. This is a ghost apple tree. So not only does this tree not require a ton of chill hours, but it also is super tolerant of heat. So then moving on from those two apple trees, there's a couple other things in this corner that I want to show you. So this is a variegated pink lemonade lemon tree. So it has a bunch of flowers on it. So I'm thinking I'm going to get some lemons from it this year. So stay tuned for that harvest. And then right next to it, so I do have a couple coffee trees. This is one of my coffee trees. But did you know that, so your coffee beans actually come from a cherry from this tree. So you harvest the cherries and you get the seed and then you roast that seed, and that's what becomes your coffee bean. So hopefully I get some fruit from this. This is the second year, or going on to the third year. So I've grown this for 2 years already. And then we also have a dragon fruit planter right here. So I'm hoping to get some fruit from this dragon fruit this year, but we'll see what comes later this year. But speaking of this coffee right here, I'm going to get another coffee plant pretty soon. I just have to go to a specialty nursery that's about an hour away. So another new addition that I just added to my garden the other day is this Montrose apple cactus. So I've been growing a Peruvian apple cactus for over 2 years now. And this Montrose apple cactus is actually a mutation from the Peruvian apple cactus. But a little word of warning, the Montrose apple cactus does have extra spikes on it, and when I was repotting it, I did get poked quite a few times, even though I had gloves on. So what I love about these two cacti is that they produce edible fruit, but they also have a really cool white flower that only blooms at night. And they get pollinated by bats and moths. So if you want to watch this thing bloom, you're going to have to come out to your garden in the middle of the night. So I also want to mention on this garden tour is that when I first started gardening, I used to make my raised beds out of wood. And you know, they used to rot super fast and didn't last more than a couple years. But from now on, I'm only going to garden in these metal raised beds. So one of these raised beds that I have in my garden is a U-shaped raised bed from Vegega. And in this garden, you can't see it yet, but there's some squash seeds I put in here. So there's going to be some summer squash and some winter squash. I'll have the names of the varieties I'm growing in the description because, you know, I'll be honest, I don't remember the exact names, but there's some kind of zucchini and winter squash that's going to be popping up in this raised bed very soon. So like I said, I like gardening in these metal raised beds because they last a long time, around 20 years. So in this raised bed, I'm growing some peppers and tomatoes. So speaking of tomatoes, this is one of my extra large tomato cages. I have two of them. And one of the most common questions I get is where do I find these super big tomato cages? So I normally find them at one of my local nurseries called Enchanted Gardens. They're in Richmond, Texas. But you know, that being said, I don't always find these cages and they're kind of hard to find. But even being a cage this big, sometimes they're still not big enough for many different varieties of tomatoes, especially if they're an indeterminate variety. So yeah, so I probably would need to add an extra stake to continue supporting the tomato that's growing in this cage. Alright guys, I just want to show you one more thing before I go. This is a monkey cactus. I'm really hoping that it's going to bloom this year. I just fertilized it like last week. But if you guys found any information in this video helpful, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more gardening videos. Until the next time, I'll catch you on the flip side of the gardening.